There was once a merchant who lived in a bustling town at the edge of a vast desert. His name was Ravi, and he was known far and wide for his shrewdness in trade. He had amassed great wealth, but his heart was heavy with a peculiar burden. Ravi was haunted by a question he could not answer: what is enough? No matter how much gold he accumulated, how many caravans he sent across the desert, or how many treasures he acquired, the question lingered like a shadow, growing darker with each passing year. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the marketplace, Ravi overheard a group of travelers speaking of a hermit who lived deep in the desert. They said this hermit had no possessions, no home, and yet he radiated a peace that seemed unshakable. Intrigued, Ravi decided to seek out this hermit. Hoping to find the answer to his question, he packed a small satchel with water and bread, left his wealth behind, and set out into the desert alone. The journey was grueling. The sun burned relentlessly during the day, and the cold bit deep into his bones at night. Ravi's feet blistered, his throat grew parched, and his mind began to wander. He questioned his decision, wondering if he had been foolish to leave his comfortable life behind. But the image of the hermit's peace kept him moving forward. After days of wandering, Ravi finally stumbled upon a small oasis. There, beneath the shade of a gnarled tree, sat the hermit. He was an old man with a weathered face and eyes that seemed to hold the stillness of the desert itself. Ravi approached him cautiously, bowing low. "I have come seeking an answer," he said. "What is enough?" The hermit smiled faintly and gestured for Ravi to sit. He poured a cup of water from a clay jug and handed it to the merchant. Ravi drank deeply, savoring the coolness. When he finished, the hermit spoke. "Tell me, Ravi, what do you carry in your satchel?" Ravi opened the satchel and showed the hermit the remnants of his bread and water. "This is all I have," he said. The hermit nodded. "And yet, it is enough to sustain you here, in this moment. But tell me, when you were in your town, surrounded by your wealth, was it enough?" Ravi hesitated. "No," he admitted. "It never felt like enough." The hermit leaned back, his gaze drifting to the horizon. "The desert teaches us many things," he said. "It is vast, unchanging, and yet it is never the same. The sands shift with the wind, the dunes rise and fall, and the mirages tempt us with illusions of water. But the desert does not ask, 'What is enough?' It simply is. It exists, as it is, without desire or regret." Ravi frowned, struggling to understand. "But how does that help me? I am not the desert. I am a man, with needs and desires." The hermit chuckled softly. "Ah, but you are more like the desert than you realize. Your mind is vast, unchanging in its essence, yet constantly shifting with thoughts and desires. You chase mirages of wealth, status, and security, believing they will quench your thirst. But like the desert, you already have everything you need to exist, to be. The question is not, what is enough? But, why do you believe it is not?" Ravi sat in silence, the hermit's words echoing in his mind. He thought of his life, the endless striving, the sleepless nights spent worrying over profits and losses. He thought of the moments he had missed, the laughter of his children, the beauty of a sunset, the simple joy of a shared meal, because he had been too preoccupied with the pursuit of more. The hermit stood and walked to the edge of the oasis. where the desert stretched endlessly before them. "Look," he said, pointing to the horizon. "The desert does not resist the wind, nor does it cling to the rain. It accepts what comes and lets go of what passes. In that acceptance, it finds peace." Ravi felt something shift within him, a loosening of a knot he hadn't realized was there. He thought of his satchel, the bread and water that had sustained him on his journey. It was simple, yet it had been enough. He thought of the hermit, who owned nothing and yet seemed to possess everything. And he thought of himself, standing at the edge of the desert, on the edge of understanding. "Thank you," Ravi said quietly. The hermit nodded, his eyes twinkling with a quiet wisdom. Ravi returned to his town. But he was not the same man who had left. He still traded, still worked, but the weight of his question had lifted. He no longer chased the mirage of enough, because he had come to see that it was not something to be found, but something to be realized. The desert had taught him that peace was not in the accumulation of things, but in the acceptance of what is. And so, Ravi lived the rest of his days with a lightness in his heart, knowing that the answer to his question had always been within him, like the stillness beneath the shifting sands.